Sometimes I wonder if you watch these videos, and I shouldn't say that. Sometimes I wonder if I just go on. Like, I'm talking to a camera, and the hope is that you're you're actually listening. It doesn't matter. I'm still receiving help, I guess, right? Anyways, I hope you get something out of this. I'm getting something out of it. I'm retelling the story that I'm just reading about and learning. So, nonetheless, he finally tells her, "Hey, it's the length of my hair." Um, he says, "Hey, there hasn't come a razor upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite unto God from my mother's womb. If I be shaven, then my strength will go from me, and I shall become weak and be like any other man." And Delilah saw that he had told her all his heart. And she sent and called for the lords of the Philistines. It's a sad story. She called for the lords of the Philistines, saying, "Come up at once, for he hath showed me all his heart." She betrayed him. Then the lords of the Philistine came up to her and brought money in their hand, because they had enticed her with money. Oddly enough, right? God works in amazing ways, my love, my Agnes, Miss Karpinski, soon to be Mrs. Karpinski. Victory and peace. They had enticed her before all this, and they were going to give her $1,100 or 1,100 pieces of silver, which was $1 million times, I think, 11. But anyway, uh, she sent for these people, and they brought the money to her, and she made him sleep. She had him fall asleep upon her knees as he's sitting there, being with her. And she called for a man, and she caused him to shave off the 7 locks of his head, because she had braided them in 7 braids. And she began to afflict him, and his strength went from him. And she said, "The Philistines be upon you, Samson." And he awoke out of his sleep and said, "I will go and knock these guys down, whatever." And he didn't know that the Lord had departed from him. And the Philistines took him, and they gouged out his eyes and brought him down to Gaza, and they tied him up with chains and put him in prison. He was blinded. He had no eyes. They took his eyes out. And then they made a mockery of him. They gathered him together. They sacrificed unto their gods and made fun of Samson, because their God had delivered them into their hands. And anyway, Samson has his last prayer, and his last prayer is that he's going to destroy all these wicked men, and his prayer is that he dies with them, because he's probably terrorized by this lust that it seems it's in his life, because he can't leave these women alone. They're women from another country, another not country, but another blood. They're not Christian women. They're not women of God. How about that? They're not women of God. Anyway, and they have this big feast. The end of the story is they have this giant feast to praise their God that they delivered Samson, and that their God delivered Samson into the hands of the nobles, and their Dagon, their God. And Samson asked the guy who's bringing him out of prison, because he can't see. He says, "Please, let me lean against the pillar of the house that supports everything, please." And there's 2 of them. And Samson, I believe, during the midst of all the party and everybody's there, he pushes. He calls on God for his strength. Finally, he calls on God for his strength. He doesn't rely on his physical hair, and he pushes these pillars down, and the roof caves in and kills thousands upon thousands of Philistines. And that's how the story ends.